Publitarian Podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. It has been a long 2 weeks. I have missed my podcast audience. Of course, this is Ronald Johnson, Publitarian, coming at you again with another episode of Publitarian Podcast. Very innocent reasons why I wasn't here. Week number 1, I did not have a voice. And it was right when all of the awesome and not awesome election 2018 midterm debacle was going on, and I so badly wanted to weigh in. But my voice sounded a lot like that dude from Sling Blade. Remember that old movie? I reckon I'm gonna have me some French fried taters. I reckon I ain't got no reason to kill nobody. And yeah, so it was like that. It's not very pleasant to listen to. And then I was recovering from that, and then the next week I got so unbelievably busy in my regular 9-to-5 job, which is a good thing. I just did not have any time to report a podcast. So, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to this podcast, and I will try to play catch up as best as I can. So let's get into it without further ado. So I'm going to call this episode, I Have Questions. Because I do. I have questions. I have questions for the Republican Party. I have questions for the Republican establishment. I have questions for the politicians that we have placed in power and who are supposedly representing our interests. And it's a tale as old as time where the citizenry is upset or disappointed with their representative. It's just freedom at work. But I honestly have some questions, guys. And this is coming on the heels of the 2018 midterm debacle. There's no need, I don't think, for me to really delve into this too deeply, because anybody that listens to my podcast knows what's going on, and that the 2018 midterms were basically a shit show, for lack of a better word. So my one big question in my series of questions to the Republican Party, the GOP, and the politicians in power is simply this. Why are you letting voter fraud be committed? And then part 2 of that question, why aren't you doing anything about it? That's it. That's the big question of the day. And so far, I'm not seeing a really good answer. And I know if I do have any left-leaning friends, you'll immediately go, oh, Ronald, that's just sour grapes, man. You know, Democrats, pulled ahead. Republicans, didn't get their message out. Matter of fact, I'm hearing that from a lot of the people on our side, like podcasters and radio personalities who have way more of a following than I do. And I'm not throwing shade or hating, but why is nobody talking about the voter fraud? Like, that is real and tangible, and we know that voter fraud is happening. In these key races, such as the state that I'm in, Florida, and Arizona, and a couple other places, votes were just magically found. It's just like somebody talked to Lucky the Leprechaun and said, here we go, they're magically votelicious, and boom, there we go, we've got votes. And nobody is questioning the veracity of these votes, where they've come from, or anything else. And they're just kind of going through the system. Now, thankfully, in the state of Florida, the governor's race and the Senate race there, that would have been Rick Scott and Ron DeSantis, respectively. They hired some lawyers, and they basically got the shit show stopped. And the shit show being our lovely county of Broward County that can never seem to get vote tallies in on time. And then when they do get in, they're always magically favoring the Democrat candidate. Miss Brenda Snipes, who looks like Black Ursula from The Little Mermaid, she is resigning from her post. She's probably resigning and booking a ticket to somewhere far away and getting off of the radar, because this isn't the first time that Ms. Snipes has done this in an election. She was also found guilty of destroying Republican voter ballots. And what's funny about this is she's a Bush appointee. Jeb Bush, the brother of G.W., appointed her back in 2003. And this is not the first election she's bungled. And it's amazing. All of her mistakes just magically favor the Democrat. I think it was MSNBC that mistakenly reported her as a Republican. Snipes is not a Republican, a very lifelong Democrat. So she's gone, thank goodness. I think she should be prosecuted, at best prosecuted for what she's doing. But this is just Florida. This is just my little sliver of the world where I'm at. But on a national political front, my big question today is, why aren't we doing anything about voter fraud? There has been so many examples of voter fraud happening. With the example that I just cited, the ballots just magically showing up in the 11th hour and everybody going, oh, okay, well, whatever, we can count them, to people not conceding close races and then getting recounts involved and then ballots magically appearing. What else is happening? Dead people voting. The list goes on and on. There's been video evidence of voting machines, like people's vote changing. If they hit the Republican candidate, it automatically blips down to the Democrat candidate, and if you don't catch it, you just voted for Democrat. Illegal immigrants voting, huge problem. And the Democrat push for no voter ID. And there's question number 3. I just swerved myself into it. Why is there not some kind of voter ID? Now, I know down in Florida, a lot of people have talked to me, like in their particular precincts, oh, well, we have to show ID to vote. I am talking like some kind of universal picture ID. I don't know why that has not been implemented. Our government can waste money on so many other things. I do not know why that hasn't been implemented. A cleaning of the registry. And the reason, besides the obvious evidence of voter fraud, part 2 of my reasoning of why I think there's voter fraud is I know that we've been dumbed down as Americans for decades, but I refuse to believe that over half of the country is this idiotic and they really want socialists, Marxists, liberals, or at best power-hungry politicians like Democrats in power. Now, maybe that's just me looking through rose-colored glasses and people really are that stupid and we've got an uphill battle. But that's my criticism of the podcasters that I listen to, radio personalities that I listen to. Everybody can't see the forest for the trees. There's actual voter fraud happening. One of the podcasters I listen to is like, oh, well, we just didn't get our message out well enough to people. And now part of that is true. Republicans, GOP, especially libertarians, I'm looking at you, libertarians, have a very hard time with branding their message. Because we labor under this false assumption that if we can just give people facts and data, they'll be happy with that and move on with their lives and they'll make the right decision. And it's horrible for branding and messaging. Yes, we do have a problem with that, but I do not think that's why Republicans lost the House. I think it's mainly due to voter fraud, and I just do not know why it's not being investigated more. The reason I'm so passionate about this has been 2 weeks of this being pent up and me wanting to run to the microphone and scream this and tell you guys about this. And I just had not had opportunity to do so. So this is my pent up anger and frustration at these Republican politicians that aren't doing anything, that are slitting their own throats. So that's question number 1. Question number 2, why is there still no prosecution of Hillary Clinton and all of these other bad actors in the Russian collusion mess. Now, before any of you QAnon people come after me, listen. Q doesn't really hold any water with me anymore. There's been too much wrong and not enough right with Q. So don't even try and talk to me about Q. I'm wanting to know what's going on. I'm wanting to know why we aren't seeing people prosecuted and why the Mueller investigation continues to go on. Now, I was on team stealth Jeff Sessions. I really was. And that this was some 4D chess and Trump was just playing it along with Sessions. But now that Sessions is gone, what can we think? What conclusion can we come to now? Besides, Jeff Sessions really was just following the law, and he was not the bulldog that we were hoping that he was. And Trump, as we know, is very results-oriented, and Sessions was not performing, so Trump had to let him go. Hopefully this Whitaker guy does better. So that's question number 3, or question number 2, if you count my first one as a 2-part question. Yeah, this is getting confusing. Anyway, that's my other question. Why is nothing being done to Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and at the very least, stop the scam that is the Robert Mueller investigation of the supposed Trump-Russia collusion? There's been so much evidence now to the contrary that this has all just been one big setup. Whenever you look for Russian collusion, you see Democrats colluding with Russians. And very ironic that you don't see Donald Trump. And if you see any member with any Russian ties, they're not really Russian ties. They're either like a business contact or ties to the Ukraine, or they were just a backbencher Trump team member to begin with. So that's my next question. Why is that still going on? Now, believe me, I would love to be proven wrong on this. I would love for this to be one big elaborate scheme for Trump just to ensnare the swamp creatures in their own demise and then just flush them all down the toilet at the same time. But I don't know if that's happening or not. President Trump is one man, and he cannot intervene in every single situation. It's up to local people like us to demand answers and ask for accountability from our local jurisdictions regarding this voter fraud. And why aren't we doing that? I don't know how this Arizona senator, tutu-wearing lefty nutbag, was able to walk away with that Senate seat. It had to have been voter fraud. Anyway, Trump is just one dude. And the mistake we're making, and I think a lot of the GOP is making too, is that they're just letting Trump be the bulldog and they're just sitting back. No, he needs a support group more than just people that go to his rallies, because, I mean, we can make noise and call our congressmen, but that's it. I really wish there was just more support for him. We'd be getting a lot of shit done. Why are we continuing to assume that the left side of the aisle plays by the rules? They do not play by the rules. They haven't played by the rules in a very, very long time. And we keep playing to not lose rather than to win. And when I say we, I mean, Republicans, GOP, libertarians. And we're just kind of leaning back and letting Trump be the attack dog. But like I said, he's just one man. And politicians that supposedly have our backs need to start stepping up and supporting him. But I don't have solutions to this. We just keep voting Republican and hope for the best. But we need to start making noise too about voter fraud and the things that we care about to our local representatives. Because Trump is a good guy and he's a good force for our cause. But like I said, he's just one guy. We need to start stepping up to the plate as well. But not to leave you on a depressing note. Well, this is still a depressing note, I guess. This is our newest representative-elect, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is pretty much the gift that keeps on giving for humor and just fodder for our side of the aisle. She was doing this live video conference between her and other Democrat politicians. And what's great is she's on camera saying this. So she said, if we work our butts off to make sure that we take back all three chambers of Congress, rather all three chambers of government, the presidency, the Senate, and the House. Okay, so anybody with a basic education knows that the three branches of government are the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. So everybody had their fun with that. Everybody's laughing about that. So then Alexandria does what any good leftist woman does. They play the victim card. So she came back, oh, these Republicans are just drooling over my every word. And then she makes this lengthy tweet out about how the Republicans should not be so concerned with how she says things, but they should rather focus on giving health care to people. And I kid you not, her tweet had a typo in it. And it was just like, it was just comedic. It was perfect. And then she had to do another tweet where she did an asterisk and corrected what she said. So this poor woman is just the gift that keeps on giving. So New York, that district, good job, guys. Really, really good job. And she's not going to, well, I'm not going to say she's not going to play by the rules on Capitol Hill. She'll either go up there and do what any politician does that have, stars in their eyes and they're young and fresh, like even Rubio. Either side of the aisle does this. They'll go up there with stars in their eyes like they're going to change the world. And she's either going to create enough noise that the Democratic establishment is going to make hell for her, and then she'll be gone. Or she will fall in line and just become another cog in the political machine. Either way, I can't believe you guys in New York voted her in. I mean, maybe that's what that demographic was, just a bunch of poor socialists that want other people's money and don't have many brain cells to rub together. If that's the case, then you did a good job getting a representative that will represent you truly and fairly. Anyway, I think that will do it for me today. That will do it for my rant. I just had those questions that I needed to answer. And I swear, every time I try to be funny on this, I end up going off on some serious tangent that does not reflect who I am on Instagram. But there we are. That's the case. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to this podcast. Again, sorry that I've been gone for 2 weeks. I really wanted to weigh in on that stuff when it was fresh and in the news cycle. But anyway, those are my thoughts. That's what's going on. If you want to reach out to me, you can. If you have answers to my questions or something that I missed, please feel free to email me or DM me. That's why I put the email out there. It's publitarian@gmail.com or thepublitarian@gmail.com. Yes, I check both emails. The reason I have two emails is because of Instagram and their stupidity for when they have business accounts, you have to have a certain type of email. Anyway, I'm going to bore you with details, but that's why I have two emails. I have to keep them both active in order to do what I do. So feel free to email me on either one of those, or you can DM me on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter. I'm Publitarian on all social medias. Mine's Gab.ai, you name it. So thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you next time on Publitarian Podcast.
You've been listening to Publitarian Podcast. Copyright 2018.